So let's start with your name.
My name is Dawn Trout. My maiden name is Williams.
And what year were you born?
I was born in 1965.
And how long have you lived in North Baltimore?
I have lived here all my life, with the exception of I went to college a couple years over in Worcester, Ohio, and then I lived in Scotland for a year on an exchange program, so all my life pretty much.
And what keeps you here now?
What keeps me here now is family. My mother's still living and she's here, and sister and brother. I have 3 children that are in school, Baltimore schools, so here is where we are for now, so.
And what was school like here when you were?
School was different than what it is here now. We went to the old main building on South 2nd Street. I don't know so much. Some things have changed. Some courses are different than what they are now, what they were then. I had home ec, and I'm trying to think. Other kids went to industrial arts or shop. So I think we had a little bit more hands-on education, maybe more so than what they do now.
And what kind of trends were popular in your youth?
Oh my gosh, trends. 70s and 80s music, the rock bands with the big hair. I didn't know that. I listened so much to that. My mom was more of a big band, older music style, so we listened to that. My dad watched westerns.
Did you have big hair?
I didn't have really big hair. Maybe a little bit bigger than what it is now. I had more of it back then.
What did you do for entertainment when you were younger?
When I was younger, I did a lot of reading. I was a bookworm. Went for bike rides. We lived out south of North Baltimore, beside the golf course. So I was already out in the country, so I rode around the block. There was a farm down the road that had a horse, and I just loved horses, so I would always go down and pet the horse and talk to it. But a lot of reading, lots of trips to the library to get books.
And now you work at the library?
And now I work at the library part-time, yes.
What kind of stories were you told as a child?
Well, a lot of my stories deal with the golf course. My mom and my dad's family started the golf course in 1965. My grandpa bought the land south of North Baltimore. It was just a big old overgrown piece of land with briars. That's why he named it Briar Hill. But lots of stories of back when they started it, and how my dad and my Uncle Bob helped my grandpa build and shape the front nine that was there. So that was a lot of stories, a lot of family stories. Spent a lot of time with my mom's folks too. We would go out there every Sunday for the most part and sit and listen to stories of her growing up. So it was a lot of older, how life was back when, Depression time.
What were some of your past occupations?
Past occupations. Well, I worked at the golf course at an early age, doing anything from running around on a golf cart, picking up trash, to I actually got to be on the mower, mowing grass. I worked a little bit in high school at Ducky's Flower Shop, doing cleaning, helping do various, not very important jobs, taking out the trash and cleaning the floors, helping with the greenhouse that Ducky had at that time. So that was pretty much it. I worked inside at the golf course when I got older. I could wait on customers for drinks from the soda fountain, make sandwiches, take their money for green fees when people would go out, and any numerous jobs that went with the golf course. All of us kids were expected, and we did, because it was a family business. You all pitched in, you all did whatever was asked of you.
What major historical events have you lived through?
Oh boy. Well, I would say the biggest thing that I remember is 9/11. I was married and at home with my oldest son, Billy, and it just left a very huge impression watching it, because I was watching a morning news show, Today Show or something like that, and they went live and was showing the airplane crashing into the big building and showing the fire trucks going and people running away from it, and it was just a day you'll never forget.
It was terrible.
It was very terrible. And it was very scary because at the time, you didn't know how extensive it was. I remember my husband was sleeping because he'd come home from third shift and he was a police officer. And I went in and woke him up to tell him what was happening because I thought, holy cow, what else is going to happen? And he called in, talked to Chief Perry at the time, and they kind of discussed a couple things, and he said, as far as we know, there's nothing else to worry about, but you do worry because you didn't know the extent of it. And there were times, rumor was that there were airplanes, of course they were shutting down flights into Washington and the Pentagon area, and they were circling back to go back to where they came from, and you were like, where are they going? It was a very scary day, and having a young child, it's like, okay, what do we do, and try and keep life normal for him. But it was scary, and just wanted to sit and hold him and not do anything, but most people were just glued to the TV trying to find out what was going on more and more. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. There were lots of different fads and stuff coming to, like the music with the big hair and all the hard rock groups and stuff. That was impressionable, I guess, because I was a teenager during that time and listened to the music. And a lot of it was not well welcomed by the older generations, because they're like, what is that stuff? It just sounds like a lot of noise.
What big inventions came out in your youth?
I would think the biggest one would be cell phones. That's really changed everyone's life, I think. Maybe not always for the best.
Right.
Some people don't like them. I'm one of those people. It makes you so accessible to everybody. They're good in a way and not good in a way. I like the fact that you can text someone and not interrupt their day. Say if they're in a business meeting or somewhere where they can't be interrupted, they can still look and see if somebody's sending a message to them, if it's an important message they need to answer, if it's something they can wait.
Yeah.
Whereas a normal phone call way back when before, you had to be right by a dial phone that was connected to the wall by a cord. You couldn't go very far. You couldn't talk in your cars. You couldn't talk in your yard. You had to be phone on the wall. So I think that's one of the biggest. It may not be the best, but it's definitely a bigger one. Computers. They started out in my generation of being a younger woman. Not that I had hardly anything in school. I never used one in school. We used typewriters to type out reports. But I think after we graduated from school, they started thinking about getting them in at the high school for the kids to start learning how to use them, and they've come so far in that amount of time. I graduated in 1984, so we're talking. That's a long time.
Yeah. And now everything's dependent on that.
And everything is, and I have two for my business. I don't know too many people that don't have one in their business anymore. I don't like it. It's something else you have to learn and adjust to.
Yeah.
And for most people, I think they are a great help to their business. With me being a florist, maybe not so much help, but it does help me find people.
How has the world grown and changed throughout your life?
This is one of them I haven't really. There are so many more people, I think, in this world now than when I was younger. I think the population has just grown, and that presents problems for this land that we live in. I think it affects the food that we eat. You know, the farmers are trying to grow more and better food and trying to get that to everybody that needs it can be a problem sometimes.
And not everybody's getting it.
And not everybody's getting it. Transportation has grown immensely. Not only more and more highways, I think, more vehicles on the highways than when I was younger. I don't remember I-75 having the truck traffic they have now.
And now they're putting in all of the new lanes.
And now it's a 3-laner instead of a 2-laner, which, you know, you used to be able to go out and jump on the highway and go to Finley or Bowling Green and you could be there in no time. Well, you can be there in no time now, but it's also you're sometimes driving in bumper to bumper traffic or 2 lanes of solid traffic and many, many semis. And it's can be scary sometimes. Bad weather. Maybe not bad weather, poor drivers.
You mentioned living in Scotland for a year?
Yes.
What was that like?
It was pretty cool. At the end of my senior year at college, I applied for a scholarship that my ag teacher or my horticulture teacher says, you ought to apply for this. They send a student sponsored by the National Junior Horticulture Association is who sponsored me. It's like a club, bigger, based in college. And they, in conjunction with the Scottish Heritage USA, sponsor a student to go to Scotland and live for a year. And you're expected to work. It's called 3 School Gardening. And you work for a year. They send a student over from Scotland over to the, I forget the name of the gardens now. I can't remember. But you're expected to take a year of course. I did small engine repair.
Okay.
I learned some more. My years at college, I didn't do so much greenhouse work, but I did a lot more there at the garden. You were expected to go out and maintain. It's an actual visitor's garden. They get many visitors over the course of the year. And being in Scotland, they're very hilly, rocky. They grow a very specific type of plant flora that's more indigenous to Scotland. Not so much stuff we see in the States, only maybe a few places. So it was a really cool learning experience, and I roomed. There were 12 of us. There were 3 girls and 9 boys. They were from all over Scotland, and one of the boys came from England. And my roommate, we became good friends. We bought a car together. So on the weekends or on our furloughs, she and I would take off because I wanted to see the country. I'm here. I'm not going to stay here while everybody else goes home. So we would go up. We visited Glasgow. We visited Edinburgh. One of the kids was from Inverewe, which is up near Island Donan Castle in Inverewe. Just the northwest area of Scotland. Just awesome. It's very bleak, especially in the wintertime. Very rainy sometimes. But it was really a good way of getting to know the country and getting to know my friends, because I might go home with her one weekend, and the next weekend maybe she went somewhere with somebody else, and I would go home. I know the one family up by the castle, I went home and a group of us would go, because it was that long of a ride that we took a couple shifts driving there and back so we could get there and spend the weekend. And just learn their culture for a year. We experienced Christmas in Scotland, which is not quite anything like it is in the States. We did, the dean of the school's wife was in a garden club in Castle Douglas, which is this nearest small town. they invited me to come to the garden club parties, which I kind of thought I was expected to go to, so I did, which was fine. It was a different experience meeting people at the countryside. But then they took me on a tour and we went to Holland. So I got to see the bulb gardens, which was very so cool to see just fields of flowers with the windmills as background. It was a very cool thing. We went hiking in the lake country of England right before I came home at the end of my year of my stay there. So
That sounds really cool.
it was an amazing opportunity, and for the most part, it was paid for, except for a little bit. The scholarship paid for all my room and boarding, flight over and back, and I had a small allowance. But then I could also work at the greenhouse. They always had to have somebody at the greenhouses watering for the weekend, so you could. Some kids worked every weekend, some kids didn't work at all. But if you worked weekends, you could earn a little bit of extra money. So I did that once in a while. It was okay. I didn't have to travel every weekend because you need money to travel. And it was nice. The families would never take money. They would never ask. They were happy to have an American come because you would share. Well, where do you live? What is your life like back in North Baltimore? You know. So it was a learning experience all the way around. It was very, I would encourage have told the kids, please, if you get the opportunity to go travel or to go do something on a scholarship program, you need to do it while you're young. You have no ties, no children, you're not married, and you can live a different life for a while. Very exciting.
Have you traveled anywhere else out of the country?
Nope, I went west with my folks on a vacation. We did like a 2-week drive out to San Francisco, saw San Francisco, Yellowstone, Grand Canyon, but never anywhere else out of the country. Yeah.
What do you think the world will be like in 20 years?
That's a good question, isn't it? I'm hoping better. I mean, isn't that everybody's hope that life maybe not gets easier but bearable? I'm hoping that wars cease and there's more peace in the world. I'm hoping that diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's can be cured. Many others that aren't right now. People get along with each other. That's my hope for my kids and my grandkids.
And what do you think North Baltimore will be like in 20 years?
Well, I'm hoping Baltimore grows. I really do. I mean, we've kind of hit a rough patch here with CSX coming in, and we all had great hopes that it would get bigger and more people would move to town, and it's kind of stalled out, I think. I'm hoping that maybe we'll pick back up, that it will happen, or maybe we get a few more companies coming in. There's plenty of room for opportunity here, I think, with our water and sewer system that goes out into the edges of town. There's places for people to build, and with CSP expanding a little bit and Equity or Keystone out on the other edge of town, I'm hoping that it's a good basis for the town to grow. I would like it to grow. It's nice the size it is, but there's always room for bettering of yourself.
What are your personal hopes for the future?
Well, I would like to see people getting along with each other better and being more considerate. There's a lot of I'm better than you are, or the such a division in the classes of people. And we're all human beings. We're all on this earth for a reason. And yes, I may not agree with you, or you may not agree with me, but that doesn't mean we can't live side by side and get along with each other, help each other in our goals. That would be my biggest, I think.
And is there anything else you want to say to the
don't know. You didn't ask me about the golf course, but I had a little bit of that. Starting it, I lived and worked there all my life, up until the time we sold it in 2006. So that's one of the there's several great things about North Baltimore. We have the golf course, we have a beautiful library, we have some little restaurants. Maybe someday there'll be more restaurants. We can only hope that that will change things. I think that would help North Baltimore grow too. Back when the Whistle Stop was a booming place, we had a lot of people coming to town. And I think that would be a big draw. So, other than that, I don't know.
Okay.